Jesus is always being tested and always tested. The Pharisees want to test him, and he throws it right back at them with another test for them. They say, you cannot proclaim yourself to be God. He says, well, if God can do only the things that I do, then who am I? If God can only God can do the things that you do, but yet I do them. They're constantly testing him, and he's constantly putting it back into them as a question. If only God can forgive sins, and yet I forgive sins, then who am I? Who does that make me? If only God can heal the sick, and yet I heal the sick, who does that make me? If only God can do the things that I do and say the things that I say, and yet I say them, who does that make me? It confounds them. They can't compute. It doesn't fit with their form of their mind, how they're going to actually deal with that question. You can't do this on the Sabbath, and yet I do it on the Sabbath. That makes you a sinner. But am I doing sin or am I doing good? If I'm doing good on the Sabbath, then it must be lawful to do good on the Sabbath in my Father's name. If I can't do it, then you should condemn me. But if I do it, why condemn me? Because only God can do the things that I'm doing. If you, by your own mouth, say only God can do this, and yet I do it in your sight, then who do you think I am? And so it is this confounding all the time. It's not just the confounding of hypocrites. It is taking a system of analysis. The way men and women have been conditioned by their teachers to solve problems is not the only way to solve the problem. The error is the definition of the problem. If Moses, the law of Moses gives us the directive from God to observe the Sabbath, why? Because it is not the intention of God to work us to death. He, according to the Scriptures, created the earth and the stars and the universe and all life and everything in it in 6 days, and on the seventh day he rested. That's because he needed to take a day of rest and to look at what he had done, to take a stock, a measure of that which was created, and to say, it's good. He gives us the opportunity to do likewise. So it's not just Sabbath meant for man. Man could take a day of rest, but not only could the man take a day of rest, but also his animals. You don't work an animal 7 days a week, all day, every day. You have to give it a day of rest to recuperate, to be able to gather its strength, to take stock of what it had done. And for you to say it is good, to do the works that are good and righteous in 6 days, and to take a day of rest. It was certainly not so that if you don't take the day of rest and you do a little bit of extra work, that they could throw you in prison and exclude you from the synagogue and to condemn you and make you feel like you're an awful sinner. It is a way to give you a day off as a time of being holy, as a time of taking a day of rest from your mighty works of righteousness. And on your day of rest, when you're taking your day to take stock of the work you had done throughout the week, if you realize that what you had not done within the week is not good, what you had done with the week was not good, and it gives you a chance to correct it. To say, oh, I got caught up in my own neediness, my own selfishness, my own greed, my own avarice, my own ambition, my own me. And that is not good. It gives us a day to reflect on that which is we should be doing better next week. Start again anew, fresh, and with the rest of it, to set our course on the original good destination. So Jesus is constantly being tested by these people who can't get it through their head how he is defining the problem. It's not the way they're used to defining problems. It's not the way they're used to looking at the world or the universe or the laws of physics. They're not used to dealing with people like this. Not allowed for them to stand up and declare in their face, you people, you take on these titles for yourselves, but yet you don't do the work that the title implies. You take upon yourself priest, holy man, father, teacher, rabbi, and yet you're not doing the works that are righteous and good that the title implies. You yourself have made yourself into a hypocrite. And you're leading my people astray. You're so far leading them astray that you reject every good thing which the Lord has given you, except for the rules of thou shalt not. Well, it's not for me to thou shalt not, it's for you to thou shalt not, because it's lawful for me. Oh, no. In those days, there were citizens and there were slaves, conquered people. You were a citizen of the empire or you were a conquered people. You either had rights or you had no rights. If you were a conquered people that was not bought and owned by some other person and they had a right to buy you, if you couldn't pay your debts, you were sold and your family was sold into slavery. They had a right to buy you for the debt that they were owed. Seems logical, huh? Not for us. But for them, that was their law. So that if you were owned by a master because you owed a particular debt and you couldn't pay it, then therefore you had to do what they said. And there were great laws about their society about those who were lords and masters, and those who were the servants. Jesus teaches us that it is more righteous to be the servant than it is to be the master. If you set yourself up to be the master, and yet you yourself have no power other than just persuasion, and the power of the laws and other contrivances that keep people down and oppressed and excluded, then you are on the wrong side of good and evil. He says, the people who follow me will make themselves servants to everyone, and he who would be the greatest would be the servant of all. Placing ourselves in the role of servitude, in humility, not of lordships, masters, and pure titles. One word for servant is a minister, someone who ministers. A someone ministers to you, then they are serving you. They are a servant. That's why people talk about their ministers, their pastors, their priests, their bishops. They talk about them in terms of, well, my bishop, my pastor, my priest, my teacher, my church. It has a possessive. My church is down there on the corner. My church is down on the other corner. Well, my church is back in Toledo. Okay, well, that's where you go, where they serve you. The ministers minister to your needs. But for us, Jesus makes this very clear that this is what he wants. He wants those who would be the ministers, the greatest, the people standing in front, to be the servants of all. You see how the system works. Because he who is Lord of all, God of all, is the servant of all. He came to serve mankind, not to lord over it. He says, you call me my Lord and Master, and rightly so, because I am the Son of the Father. And all life and holiness resides in me, has been given to me by the Father. And yet I'm the one who's washing your feet like a servant. You should take stock of that idea. You should take that to heart. Because the one who truly has power doesn't have to throw it around. The one who truly has influence doesn't have to throw it around for the sake of others, who they can say, well, look, watch out. Here comes the man. No. You don't deal in fear. True strength is not to be feared. You want people to fear us. Do you want someone to fear you? No, we want people to honor you, to thank you, thanks for coming. Glad you're here. Thank you for thinking of me. It's those kinds of way of approaching Christianity as we who are servants of the Most High God, Lord Jesus Christ, we imitate him who serves us. I don't see what's so difficult to understand about this concept. Anybody who has ever owned a cat should understand this concept very clearly. You think you own a cat? Think again. They got you right where they want you. So it's the idea that Jesus is always being tested by people because, and he flips it right back at them. If you say I can't do these things and yet I do them, what does it say about me? That I'm a lawbreaker, that I'm a sinner, that I should be worthy of condemnation and being put to death, excluded, ostracized, rejected, and despised. Just because you don't get your way, you don't fit your paradigm, your mold, your ideas, which have been drilled into your head of how people ought to be. Human beings should be foragers, not farmers. Imagine the first people who started farming. How much were they ridiculed, despised by the people who were foraging? The hunters who went out and hunted every day. Somebody said one day, well, I don't want to hunt. I'm going to farm. What? You can't be a farmer. You're supposed to be a hunter and a gatherer. In those ancient civilizations, we know that it was the role of the men to go out and hunt, and Women would forage. They would go look for berries and roots and things. Men to plow the ground, plant seeds, pray for rain, and do season, to harvest, and to process. That was just too much. And so now we have a whole different set of expectations of what men should do and what women should do. I am often quoted, and I often say that, I'm tired of this where people, these men out there will not be men. If the men out here would do their jobs, we wouldn't have all these problems out here in our neighborhoods. They're letting the system, the powers that be, destroy our own families, our own neighborhoods. They're letting it happen. They're buying into the idea that, well, I guess the only thing open for me is prison or death. Therefore, my family, my wife, my children are going to have to do without me anyway, so why should I be there now? I got to be me. Well, I tell you, men can be real men, and they should be real men even here, even in our neighborhoods, even when the whole system is stacked against us, that our families are being destroyed, set apart, and we have so many fathers and so many mothers that are destroying the whole different idea of what family life is, family structure. And yet I know families that are happy with this particular system of, okay, well, I'm not going to obligate myself to this particular woman and these particular children because I can't live with them anyway. If I live with them, they lose their benefits. So I'll go find somebody else. They're fine with that system. They've gotten used to it. They've adapted. The rest of the civilization says, what is wrong with you people? Don't you love your wife? Don't you love your children? Don't you love them? If you would love them, then you'd be there. Yeah, well, if I can't be there, because if I go and get a job, they're going to take all my wages and pay for the people that I was with before. There's a no-win. So we are in the midst of encouraging you to a rebellion against those powers that be that want to enslave you yet again and still again, and to keep us downtrodden and excluded and under their thumb of power. And when we say, you can't do that, well, I am doing that. I am a good husband to my wife. I am a good father to my children. Who does that make me? Well, I do live with my wife, and I do live with my children. And I reject your whole welfare system. I am empowered to go get some sort of profession that I like to do, that is a passion, something that it sets my whole soul on fire. I want to be a printer. I want to be a bricklayer. I want to be a computer analyst. I want to be a physicist. I want to be a mathematician or a writer. And I'm going to do it, and it's not too late. The world says to you, you can't do that. So, well, I does that make? Jesus, they told Jesus, you can't heal that man on the Sabbath. Well, I did heal him. What does that make me? Christianity is a rebellion. Christianity is a revolution. Christianity is not an acceptance of just whether they tell you to be. Christianity is a discernment, and a discernment of good and evil and the blessings of what God says to do and not what those people want to make you do. You're not enslaved. To take up on, if someone bestows upon you a title, like a manager, or a senior volunteer, or a section leader. The people who install you in that role are supposed to see that you conform to that role, and that you, in fact, understand what that is to be, and that you do it faithfully. And so the church, when they say, okay, you're going to be the father of these people, don't lord it over them that you're their father. Don't let them call you by the title and you not do it, because there's only one Father who begat you. Did I beget you? You call me Father? I claim fatherhood but not paternity. The idea is that to perform that role, to serve his children, to raise his sons, to groom their daughters to be great and wonderful and holy in the sight of the Lord. The church, for some reason, bestows titles upon people. I never wanted any of them. Seems I had them all now. But I never sought after any particular title. Because I knew, I had doubts that I could actually fulfill what is required. If you're a division officer, you're immediately thrust into a role in which you, without doubt, immediately feel inadequate for. Because there are people there who are far more experienced, far more knowledgeable, and far more dedicated to the actual working of the systems that you're supposed to be the leader of than you are. And yet, the system requires that you take responsibility, that you assign tasks, that you are the one who is responsible in the event that something goes haywire. And so, that's how I've come to look at titles. Title is that person who accepts the blame for when other people mess up. If I'm doing my part. And that's the big if. Jesus requires each and every one of us to come into our own through prayer to him. If we can pray to him, we can know, can yearn to get close to him, to accept his energy, his guidance, and his role model, then we can aspire to that which is proven to work and be good. When we try to reinvent it because the worldly world wants us to do something else, then we say, oh, well, I got your respect and your approval, you gave me some money, but I have to do what you say. Christianity is a revolution. Christianity is a revolt. It's not violent, it's faith. It's conviction. It's dig down and find it within you to say, no, I know who is my Lord and my God.
Amen.
And we do our best to do it, right? So, in humility and with as little arrogance as possible, we seek to serve. One another. And if you serve anybody at any time, I don't care if you serve a child, a wife, a husband, or a cat, you'll know what humility is. And if you can do it without fear mongering, without power mongering, without a sense of self-image getting in the way, then you can become Christ-like and be crucified and rise. But Christ wasn't just crucified, and Christ didn't just rise. He crucified, rose, and redeemed all of us. And that's what he's still doing.